So it's time to hem a formal dress, and this time you're going to hem it from the waist seam. There's a few reasons why you might do this. If there is a waist seam, that would be a time to do it. If it has excessive detail or fullness at the hem that you don't want to lose, that would be a time to shorten from the waist seam. There's a lot of reasons why you would do it, and I'm going to show you now how to do it. So I am just finishing one up for a client. I do this all the time, so I'm going to show you my method for shortening a dress at the waist seam. First thing we need to do, which I already started, is we need to take our seam ripper and start detaching the bodice from the skirt on both the outer layer and the lining layer. So just start ripping and get it all the way detached. After you detach that, you'll also have to flip it over to the other side, and we'll have to detach part of the zipper from a little bit above the waist seam all the way down to the bottom. So go ahead and rip all that, and then we'll go on to the next step. I have it totally separated. Here's the bodice with the zipper still attached at the top, and here is the skirt with the lining and the outer. So now you should have your measurements from the previous step when you fitted it and measured your pins. So for me, I'm going to be taking 7.5 inches off the front of the dress and 7 inches off the back and side. So we're going to mark these separately. So I just push the lining in there to get it out of the way. And this is the outer fabric, and right here's the back. Okay, so I can already see if I don't continue these darts here, I'm going to be completely cutting them off. So that's probably going to make the skirt not fit the bodice if I don't do something about that. So let's first just go ahead and mark it, and then we'll go from there. And we're going to mark down from not the complete top, the raw edge, but that original line of stitches that was what was forming the waistline. So we're going to go 7.5 inches down from that and make a marking. And just mark that across. And you can definitely see this dart is needed to form the shaping of the dress too. So we will basically copy this. It looks like about 1/2 inches at the waistline. We'll take a measurement and a distance of that dart, and we'll copy it down below with our new waistline. So if you just make a bunch of points, okay, so just make some points and then you can connect them. This is the side, so I'm measuring 7.5 inches down to mark where our new waist will be after all this is cut off. So I'm just marking a few points and then connecting them into a line. And just connect the lines for that gradual shift from 7.5 to 7. Okay, so this line is our new waist. So we need to mark the same on the lining. Measuring 7.5 and 7.5 coming off this whole back piece. Mark a few points at 7.5 and then connect them just like that. Okay, we have our new waist marked on our lining and on our outer piece. Okay, now it's time to cut. So how big of a seam allowance do we leave? Well, let's measure. The seam allowance that was used previously on this dress is like about 1/2 inch. So let's go 1/2 inch up from the line that we just drew and start cutting off all of this excess here. So you can draw a second line that measures 1/2 inch and cut on that. You can also just position your guide like this and then you can just cut like that. It doesn't have to be that exact. So you can kind of eyeball 1/2 inch. I'm just cutting through one layer right now. I'm about to cut off the remainder from the back, but before I do that, I want to transfer these things. So this is where a dart is, this is a dart, and this is the back seam. And I want to transfer all that information down here so that when I cut this off, I don't get confused about what's the front and the back on this bottom part of the skirt that we're keeping. Okay, so how I'm going to do this, easy. I'm just going to start ripping this back open so that way, just like when I saw this and saw that it was open, that's how I knew that was the back seam. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to rip this open, because it's going to need to be ripped open for the zipper to go down in there. Okay, and we'll need to rip it further, but that gives us enough of an idea that we know it's the back seam. Okay, perfect. Now, let's transfer the placement of these darts. So, if you look at the dart up close, you'll see it's about 1/2 inch at the top, and then it tapers down over about 6 inches. Okay, so like here's a dart, and I want to bring it down to where it's going to be. So if I just look for the center of that dart and I just come straight down and I mark a little dash, this is going to be where the center of that dart is. Okay, and I have already done that on this side, so let's just show that again. Okay, I just came straight down through the center of that dart. If it was standing up, straight down through that, and I made a little dash. Okay. This line will be the center of the dart. So we will make 2 markings, one on either side of that center, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. Okay, so then we will measure, our dart was 6 inches long, from the center straight down, make a point. You can even draw a whole line. Okay. I'm going to make it very clear where the end of that was by making a little sideways dash. Okay, this is the bottom of the dart. This is the top of the dart. When we're ready to sew this, we will fold along the center of the dart like that, and then we'll start right here at this 1/2 inch and we'll do a straight tapered line all the way to that bottom point. So the dart will start at 1/2 inch, or an inch really, and it will taper all the way down over 6 inches, and then we'll have an identical dart to the one that we cut off. So let's copy the same thing over here. I marked the center of where the dart will be. Now I will mark 1/2 inch to the right of that, and 1/2 inch to the left of that. And now I will measure 6 inches straight down from where the waist seam will begin. Here's the 6. I'm going to do a horizontal dash so it's very easy for me to see it, that is the end of this line. And then just come straight up with some points or a line, just enough that you can see it and know this is the center of the dart. Now that both of our darts are marked and our back seam is easily identifiable because we seam ripped the opening, now we can cut off the remainder of the excess, leaving a 1/2 inch seam allowance here. Okay, our lining is ready to go. Now we need to repeat this process for the outer layer. Okay, last time we made the marking after we had already cut. This time we're doing it before we cut. It doesn't matter. We just need to transfer this line further down. So I'm going to lay my roller right on the line of that dart. And I'm going to come straight down, making sure I go at least, I don't know, these top 7 inches are going to get cut off, so I'm just going to go down pretty far. There, that was an easier way to mark it. Before you cut it off is the way to go. Same thing over here. Let's mark that dart. Okay, we'll probably have to rip more, but that's enough just to know that it's the back seam. So I'm just cutting off, leaving a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So we're going to find one of the markings that we just did and fold the fabric along that central line, like that. Make sure it's on the line. And then put a pin in it. Okay, so now we'll start at the bottom. And for darts, you do not want to backstitch, but you want to make sure that you have long tails, both a needle thread and a bobbin thread. And we're going to start at this line that we drew as a horizontal slash to indicate it's the bottom of the dart. We're going to start right there, as close to the edge of the fold as possible, and put the needle down. Then you're going to draw a real or imaginary line up to that point and sew straight towards it. Come down to the beginning of the dart and tie both of the strands together in a square knot. So that means tie it like you would tie the first part of tying your shoe, and then do that same thing but backwards. It's not a big deal how you do this, just kind of do like a double knot there, tie it tight, and then when you clip it, leave the tails somewhat long. Okay, let's repeat for the other dart. Let's find the dart, and then here's our central line. So we'll pinch and fold the fabric along that central line, like that. Make sure it stays folded on that line. And we'll begin at that marking, the horizontal slash that marked the bottom of the dart. Okay, go as close as you can to the edge and drop that needle, drop the presser foot. I'm going to put a few pins to make sure it doesn't come unfolded at that fold. You could press here, but I'm skipping it. We'll press after. Okay, then look for this marking that we made up top. You can draw a real line, or you can do an imaginary line and just sew straight for it. Repeat the same process of folding, pinning, sewing, and tying the ends of the darts on the lining fabric. Next, we'll take our iron on a low setting and we'll press these darts away from the back seam. So flip that seam allowance to the side. And I'm pulling gently outward so that it's being pressed truly at the seam. I'm pulling it to avoid it just being like pressed like that or something. Like we want it open, down, pressed to the side. Now it's time to attach the bodice to the skirt. So we're going to do that lining and then outer. Okay, so here is the bodice lining. Here's the center front. So I need to find, here's like a side seam of the lining. Here we go. So center front needs to go to center front, but upside down. So they need to go like this. And then I'm gonna flip this over my hand while I don't let go of that. Okay, so this isn't probably lined up in the center, but I'm just gonna pin it just to get this started, and then we'll move that. So if I move along the edge here, along the edge, then we can get to where the two openings for the zipper are, and that's a good place to start. So get that all lined up. Okay, this is the bodice side seam, so we're gonna pin right up to it, because remember we still have to take from the skirt. Okay, now this is our center front seam that's not aligned yet, so I'm just gonna pass by that one and keep going over here to the edge. So here's the edge where the zipper opening is, and here is that edge on the skirt piece. So we're gonna stick those together, right sides together. And just move along the seam. I'm going to take out that center front one. Okay, so now we have This is marked at center front with a little notch. I need to make a marking for center front on the lining, so I'm going to fold side seam to side seam. And then over here where the fold is, that is the center front. I'll mark that with a vertical pin. Oops. Okay. Now we can match this center front to this center front. And then we'll just keep moving along here. So this is the bodice side seam, so let's keep clipping up into that point. Okay, so this flappy extra, we're going to pinch it there at the base. And this is where we need to begin. And then taper that off to the side seam. And that's what's going to make this skirt small enough to fit on the bodice. Here is the other bodice side seam, so I pinned it up to this point. So let's go from center front and keep working towards the side seam. Okay, so now these extra flappies that are part of this skirt, we now know exactly how much we need to take out to make it fit onto the bodice and line up with the bodice side seams. So like here's the bodice side seam. Right across from it is this flappy thing we need to get rid of. So we're just going to pinch right there. Get that together. And then this is where we need to start our sewing. I'm going to put a vertical pin there to mark the point to start. And then I'm going to unpin just this area just temporarily so I can do that. And same thing on the other side. Where is our... Here's our bodice side seam. And need to line this all up. And then right where that bodice side seam is, flip it over. Here's this big flap that needs to go away. Pinch it right where that bodice side seam starts in there. And I'm going to place a vertical pin to show me that's where I'm starting. Take these out temporarily. And let's go to the machine and sew from here down. Here's my vertical pin that marked where I needed to start. Put my machine in right there. And begin. And same thing, I'm going to use that same 13-inch point of reference. So I'm going to aim for that and just make a nice tapered imaginary line to there. Same thing for the other side. So now you can see that the skirt is pinned onto the bodice here, and if I keep going, it's going to now fit. So we can now safely serge or cut off this seam allowance, and we can continue pinning this to the bodice. Now that the outer layer of the bodice is attached to the outer layer of the skirt with pins, we're ready to sew it down. So let's arrange this in here and sew this with a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around. Okay, here it is from the front side. Skirt and bodice are attached. It looks good. It'll look better once we press it. Let's repeat that process for the lining. Okay, the dress is all back together. Bodice is attached to skirt on both the outer and the lining. So now we just have to resolve the zipper. We're going to start by attaching the outer material to the invisible zipper. So you can see it's already attached here, so we're just going to reach in here and pinch the seam allowance of the outer with that zipper tape. And just keep going even past the opening. We might open that opening up more. We'll definitely reinforce it so it doesn't continue to open up. Okay, now we're ready to sew this down. So if you watched my video from 2 weeks ago and last week, we did invisible zippers. So you should be very familiar with the process now. And what we're gonna do is stitch in the groove here. So we're gonna go really close to the teeth. So we go down, and I'm going to be rolling these zippered teeth to the side. First I'm just going to get my needle down, then I'll raise my presser foot so I can get in here and roll the zipper teeth open like that so that we can really stitch close to them, about 1/8 of an inch from that teeth edge. Got as close to the head as I could. I'm going to now backstitch and take it out. Here's how it looks from the front side. You can see I could have gotten a little closer to the teeth, so I'm going to hit it again. The only thing is last time, in last week's video, we had a decorative, like embroidered fabric, and if I got too close to the teeth, it couldn't zip. But this is a more normal fabric. Let's do a test zip. Oh yeah, everything's going to be fine there. So we can get a little closer to the teeth. So I'm going to roll that back and do that same stitch again. Okay, here's the side we just did. It looks great. So now we're going to take the other side. Okay, let's sew that. I'm going to start this one from the bottom. Roll the teeth to the left and get that needle in that groove. Once you get to the top, make sure this lining's out of your way, so you're only stitching through the outer and the zipper tape. Make sure nothing else is under there. Okay, end with a back stitch. Okay, the outer is attached to the zipper. It works great. Next we'll do the lining. So you'll remember I ripped an arbitrary amount from these back seams. So I need to rip more to get this lining seam as opened up as this outer seam is. So I'm just going to rip a little bit of this. Then we'll attach the lining. So if you would like to know what happens when you do it the wrong way, when you do the lining before the outer fabric, and you make that mistake, you can check out my video from 2 weeks ago. It says full process on the thumbnail, and then it's called shorten a dress at the waist with invisible zipper, or something like that. And I make about every mistake in the book, and I show you what happens and how to fix it. So if you want to learn even more about invisible zippers, and you just want to watch all the mistakes that I make before you attempt yours, go check that video out. Then I also did another video last week on adding an invisible zipper to a dress that did not have a zipper previously. So you'll learn a lot about invisible zippers on that one, and you'll also learn about installing the invisible zipper when there's a whole bunch of layers that are delicate and embroidered and kind of difficult. So we've had 3 weeks of invisible zippers, so you should be feeling pretty good if you have to tackle one. But if you're not feeling good, please leave a comment and I will try to help you in any way that I can. Okay, so now we need to flip this. So we're going to reach into this top corner where the zipper top is, and we're going to go in there, and that's what we're going to flip right there. So once that flips, it lets everything go in line. So now we need to attach our lining edge of the zipper opening, so that's this edge, to our zipper tape, which is here. And we are not going to stitch close to it this time. We're going to stitch a little further out so that our lining doesn't always try to get caught up in the zipper. So we're just aligning all 3 of those raw edges and pinning or clipping. Okay, now we'll go ahead and sew that with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Repeat this process of pinning and stitching for the other side. Your dress would have become pretty much inside out at that point, so then after you stitched that, then you would reach inside the hem and flip it right side out. We are almost done, you guys. Let's test our zipper. Fantastic. Now the only thing that's left to do is press. So I'm going to just go over to the ironing board, press this, make it look all nice, clean up all my threads. If your base of your zipper looked like it was coming apart here at the back seam, you could flip that and you could reinforce that if that was needed. This looks good, so I'm just going to press, and this is done. Okay guys, we're all done. I actually don't have the finished dress here to show you because if you can believe it, the second I said it was done and turned off the video, the client appeared to pick it up. So I had her stand here for about 10 minutes while I finished pressing it, and she took it on her way. So that one's all done. I hope that helped you guys. If so, please give my video a like. If you are into this kind of thing, please subscribe to the channel. I put out a new video every Monday about alterations, sewing machine maintenance, all kinds of stuff like that. So I would appreciate if you subscribed, if you found value in this. There's lots more value to come. Also, if you love these videos that have all this information on hemming, and you're going to be doing some formal dress hemming, and you'd like to have all that information at the ready, please check out my ebook. I've made this just for you guys so that all the information is condensed down into a document that you can have on your phone, on your device. You can even print it out, have it next to you. You won't have to scrub through these videos to try to find the information you need. It will be readily available at a glance without internet connection in your sewing room, so you can easily get through these alterations with the quickness, because all that information will be right there for you. So check out my ebook. It's in pre-order status right now. It'll be coming out on July 14th, so if you order it now, it's at a discount. So check the link below. And again, thank you so much just for watching. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know what you thought of the video.
Until next time, happy sewing!